even with BRC20 and now BRC 2.0, I think that people are still thinking small. Like, it's a copy and pasted EVM, and it doesn't have its own token. Like, you're shoehorning a smart contract system into Bitcoin as a proof of concept.
Adam, welcome to Bitcoin Rails. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Such a treat.
Glad to be here.
I'm so excited. For folks who don't know you, Adam Krellenstein, am I pronouncing it correctly? Yeah. For folks who don't know you, you, I guess, were the primary architect of Counterparty. How did you define your relationship, your early relationship with Counterparty?
Yeah, I worked with a couple other people, but I designed the protocol. I wrote the reference implementation. And I did that at the end of 2013.
Okay. And you had been in Bitcoin for how long at that point?
I'd been watching. It was the first thing I really built or got involved with as a project.
Do you remember how you got into Bitcoin? I ask everyone this question.
Sure.
Do you remember how you got into Bitcoin? Especially back then.
Maybe
how did
a couple
you get
years.
In?
I mean, I remember seeing posts on like Slashdot way back in the day.
Slashdot.
Okay. Yeah, that era, like 2011, something like that.
Okay.
Earlier. Initially skeptical about the economics, took a pause, didn't really follow up too closely, and then if maybe a year or two later, started to pick my interest. Okay, how does this work?
What about it was interesting? I mean, were you like a dev? Were you a libertarian? Like, what was it back then that kind of got you into it?
I think I came from this sort of, I like decentralized protocols. Side.
Even back then?
Yeah.
I mean,
BitTorrent.
Were there other? BitTorrent.
BitTorrent
okay, you
was
were
the
a
one.
BitTorrent person.
And other, people were building, they were early days of talking about mesh networks and, I mean, even then I could feel like the internet becoming more centralized.
Yeah.
The infrastructure was becoming more centralized. And that was something that was interested in me. Like the things that you could do in a decentralized manner with the appropriate protocol design. I was Ripple. Back in 2009, really, really, or before it was a blockchain protocol. It preceded Bitcoin, of course.
What was it? What was it back then?
It was a peer-to-peer payment system that worked via IOUs.
Really?
Yeah. So I would send you money, and you would trust me to owe you some max, right? $500, and then you would pay someone else, and then transitively IO'd that third person money. And all of this was just, there was a website. It was a central server that maintained these IOUs. And
so it was because it was a custodial IOU provider service?
Yeah, so it was
transmitter?
Really, yes. And then it later just totally changed. But it was, I was doing this, I was making peer-to-peer payments with Ripple with my friends in college for lunch.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, I had no idea this important Ripple history.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how where we've come today.
Ironic.
It is extremely ironic.
Amazing. Okay, interesting. Okay, so and how did the idea for Counterparty? And I mean, maybe we could even give like a little brief TLDR on what's Counterparty.
Sure.
But I think a lot of people watching the show will be familiar. So yeah.
Yeah, Counterparty. It's hard to sum up. Counterparty was really the first smart contract system out there. It had the first decentralized exchange, the first oracles, the first prediction markets, the first financial derivatives on a blockchain, and it did this on Bitcoin. It's what's called a Meta-Protocol. It extends the functionality of Bitcoin by building on top of it, by having this extra piece of software that sort of talks to Bitcoin Core and then reads data out of Bitcoin transactions in a deterministic way. So you run your Bitcoin Core software and you run the Counterparty software in what we now call an indexer.
It wasn't called an indexer.
It's not called an indexer. No, we called it a node, even though they don't really communicate directly. But it has the same architecture as what people are familiar with today, ordinals and runes and that kind of thing.
But you wouldn't call this the first, this was probably the first Meta-Protocol to get like significant adoption in any real way, but it was not the first Meta-Protocol.
So what preceded
not just on Bitcoin, but any blockchain.
So what preceded it was colored coins.
Okay.
Really. Colored coins have been around, I think, for a couple of years, maybe 2012.
Okay.
And colored coins sort of works the way that Ordinals does more directly, where you would sort of attach metadata to UTXOs. You'd say this UTXO is special. And then you'd track where the UTXO moved, and then you could assign value to a UTXO to create a new asset. But there weren't really any smart contracts. You were sort of limited by what script could do. And there was no way of storing data inside of transactions like very easily, like what Ordinals has with Taproot. But ordinals and colored coins are very similar, and colored coins preceded Counterparty, definitely.
What was the inspiration for Counterparty? I remember, I think I heard you talking about Mastercoin at some point. I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that history.
Yeah, so Mastercoin was, initially it was an idea. It was this guy, J.R. Willett, on the Bitcoin Talk forum who said, I've got a great idea. And it's here's how we can extend the functionality of a Bitcoin. Here's how we can build a meta-protocol. Didn't use that term. And he had this grand vision of all this additional functionality you could build on top of Bitcoin. And
smart contract functionality?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so it was a pretty expressive style of functionality that he was referencing at that time. And this is we're talking 2013. This is
2013,
pre-Ethereum
exactly.
days.
Summer 2013.
Okay.
And they did one of the first ICOs, raised, a few $100,000. And then they didn't build anything.
Really?
Yeah, it took them 6 months to just release the tiniest, implementation of token.
Was it
creation.
A rug, or was it just they were slow and dysfunctional and other weird things happened?
Okay. Yeah, that one. Yeah, it was not very well run. There wasn't a reference implementation. There wasn't a protocol specification. No one was actually, they raised up a bunch of money and then they started giving out money to developers and said, go build something. And at the time, and so I was watching this project, and a number of other people who, were watching this project were like, this is a great idea. Why aren't you guys doing anything? And we tried to get involved in helping Mastercoin, building Mastercoin.
Did they have a token? So they raised money in exchange for tokens?
I think so. I think it was explicitly for a token, yeah.
Where was the world of tokens at this point in history? Were there other tokens other than Bitcoin at this point?
There were the other blockchains. There was Litecoin as an example. There were the
Bitcoin fork tokens.
Yeah, Primecoin. Aurora was a hypey ICO. I'm not sure when that was. It might have been later. Primecoin was a good example. Namecoin. Namecoin, was an early project, right? I think it was the first merged mined blockchain. But they tended to be clones of Bitcoin.
Okay.
And people weren't really building rich things on top of Bitcoin. They weren't really trying to...
There were meme coins, essentially.
I would say so, yeah. I would say they were meme coins. Primecoin was an interesting idea. Namecoin is a really functional thing. Satoshi talked about Namecoin as an idea. And I don't remember whether he was actually involved in designing it. But using Bitcoin for DNS was an early idea. And it turns out, actually, I learned this recently, that the architecture for Meta-Protocols actually goes back to Hal Finney in 2010. He said, look, you can stuff all of this data in Bitcoin transactions, parse it out deterministically, bam, you've got more functionality. So the idea for Meta-Protocol goes back a long way.
Interesting. Okay, so J.R. Willett proposes, there's a sort of, again, these sort of fork token kind of things, the Litecoins of the world, that's sort of the era that we're talking about.
Yes.
And J.R. Willett says, FYI, I think that we can have these sort of expressive, did he use the word smart contracts at the time? Did that term exist?
Yeah, I believe so. So Vitalik was also one of this cohort of people who were watching Mastercoin and interested in building smart contracts in this way. He was young. He was 19 at the time. And we were all sort of looking at the Mastercoin project and sort of saying, let's do something.
Let's go, Mastercoin, rooting for you.
Yeah. And after some number of months of trying to fight the Mastercoin project to get involved, I just sort of said, screw it, I'm going to build it myself. This isn't that hard. And Meta-Protocols are really nice because you can build a lot very fast. The actual code base is small because you trust Bitcoin to do all of the security.
Right. All the consensus is handled. Everything's done. You're just building a nice little effectively indexing node on top.
100%. Yeah. And you just write the smart contracts. That's more or less what you're doing. And so we were able to just launch, I think I published the post on Bitcoin Talk with the full source code live. I think it was January 10th, 2014. And
was it just you at the time?
I was the one who I did the implementation of the code.
Okay.
But there were a couple other people who were involved in the other stuff in the project. Whatever, talking to people, answering questions, community support, and building the web wallet was one major
But you were
component.
the main dev.
I was the main dev, yeah, and did the architecture, yeah, and designed all the features, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how long were you involved with Counterparty? I mean, so what happened? So you launched this thing. You have like a Casey Rodarmor moment.
Exactly. Yeah. Something like that. Yes, exactly. Yeah, way back.
Okay.
Built it very fast and launched with the DEX functioning.
In like how long did it take you to like build it, launch it?
Less than 2 months. Really fast.
Less than 2 months.
Very, very fast.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Took Casey a little longer, but he had to number every Satoshi in the blockchain.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the projects are not comparable in many ways. It was a small project, but just kept on building on functionality. And people had been clamoring for this functionality for DEXs. I mean, at this point, because Mt. Gox had gone under. And everyone was like, hey, listen, we're using this decentralized money. What's with all the centralized exchanges?
Self-custodial exchanges. We need, yeah.
And so that was a major motivation, I think, for Mastercoin and for us. And
interesting.
So that was like the headline thing. But we also prediction markets. And I mean, I had like trustless, maybe it was a couple months after, trustless poker, where you could actually bet and game on Bitcoin. Anyway, I was involved for maybe a year. And building out additional features, sort of working on the wallet support, infrastructure things, and getting some adoption, like medium adoption. Like people were sort of like aware of it. People were excited about it, but honestly, it was too early.
It wasn't like a banger right out the gate.
It wasn't. There was sort of initial hype and excitement, but it was just too early. Like the space wasn't ready. There were no NFTs. Right?
Well, let's back up also. What was this for? I mean, it wasn't for NFTs initially, right?
It was for the phrase that we used was peer-to-peer finance.
Peer-to-peer finance.
Exactly. Yeah. DeFi became the term, right? But peer-to-peer finance is what we called it. It was whatever, Counterparty.
I love it. I think it's great branding. Well done.
Yeah. It didn't quite. It was all of this stuff. It was all sort of the alpha version of the current infrastructure that we have.
But what were you promising with peer-to-peer finance? Like, what were the use cases that you were focused on?
So,
DEXs? Was that the main
thing?
one?
Yeah, DEX was a big thing. It was just sort of you can use blockchains for more than just payments, right? You can use it for issuing new assets. You could use it for equities. You can use it for trading. You can use it for all sorts of things besides just sending money from point A to point B, which honestly Satoshi, sort of talked about, right? Hal Finney talked about. That was very inspiring, and we didn't know exactly how it was going to take off, so it was a little bit of a spray and pray. Like it had a bunch of disparate features, Counterparty, and it took a while for people to start to use it. And then, of course, like the way the space, what I didn't realize is that you build all this functionality, but you need to have the digital assets for people to actually trade and use the functionality with. And that's we sort of built the functionality before there were any digital assets besides Bitcoin.
But you had a digital asset issuance mechanism within this code. But was the issue...
It took people a year to use it, maybe 2 years.
They didn't probably even understand how to use it or like why it mattered. I mean, this was like before anyone cared about like tokenization of things, maybe, I guess.
A lot of the first NFT... a lot of the first NFT collections were on Counterparty. Spells of Genesis is really the first trading card game. Yeah, really this first NFT collection, I would say.
But this came later. I mean, NFTs
a year later, I would say.
A year after it was launched, or
after
a year.
It was launched.
So you were leaving Counterparty right as the NFT boom on Counterparty. It sounds like you're just getting adoption and you decided to leave.
No, it was. I mean, it maybe happened to some number of months after I left. It wasn't like. Yeah, it was sort of, it came after, I think. And it wasn't a thing that I was directly involved in. Like the functionality had been there for a while. People started doing NFTs in 2014 on Counterparty. A lot of early projects launched on Counterparty as tokens. Stacks originally was a Counterparty token.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Fascinating.
There's a lot of history there, but it took time for that to. I mean, that was in 2014 as an example. That was a Counterparty token.
So you were there. When did you actually launch? Like 2013?
January 2014.
January 2014, and then it was sort of about a year that you were actively working on it. And during that time, were NFTs already really taking off? Not really.
They weren't taking off. People were building them, but no one knew what they were. They were small. There were some early art NFTs. There were people were doing stuff.
It was like mild to moderate adoption
That's
of whatever. It was like exploration phase, research phases.
Cute small projects.
Small projects.
People were starting to say, hey, listen, we're going to try and create a company with a token. There were a number of projects like that where people were launching on Counterparty, but no one knew what was going to happen. And I spent a large chunk of time working on Counterparty trying to get into the, I guess, what would become the enterprise space, right? Like trying to get into the space of using public blockchains and blockchain technology for traditional financial applications. And so we had this partnership with Overstock.com. Overstock.com was really the first large retailer to accept Bitcoin as payment. And you could buy whatever it is, mattresses and clothes and stuff with Bitcoin. And they were very interested in building alternative financial infrastructure on a public blockchain. And they sort of picked Counterparty. This is Patrick Byrne, who's an interesting figure. And we tried to make that work. And it ended up that they weren't quite ready to do that project. And the space was generally not quite ready. And so having built out all this functionality, I sort of left the project after about a year and said, listen, this protocol exists. People can use it. It's now in the community's hands.
So you probably weren't even really thinking about NFTs too much at the time. You were like trying to build like the future of finance, and the NFT thing was just sort of like happening in the background.
100%. Yeah.
Then like you leave because mild to moderate adoption.
Yeah.
And all of the sudden you have spells of Genesis and RarePepes just start like exploding.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't explode in the same way, right? It was a much slower burn. It wasn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There wasn't the
even back then. So there was no like moment that RarePepes wasn't a moment.
No, I mean, I wasn't there for a lot of it, but no, it wasn't like CryptoKitties was the first moment, right?
Right.
Ethereum really.
It was a very underground moment.
Crypto. I mean, I remember
RarePepes.
RarePepes
was a very underground. That's maybe the better way to describe it. It was like a small niche moment. It wasn't like a big commercial moment.
It wasn't, right? The tooling wasn't there. The wallet support wasn't there. The user base was small, but it was and continues to be like a small, diehard community of artists, creators who were on the bleeding edge. But it was a bleeding edge platform.
Yeah, those Nakamoto cards trade for like $100,000 a pop.
Yeah, it's still. I mean, I think the most valuable NFT collection on Bitcoin, right?
Oh, on Bitcoin for sure, 100%.
Yeah. And just, I mean, it's very, very valuable, but because of the history, right? There wasn't a hype machine around it. It just wasn't a mature enough space, and so it started off as an underground movement, and then gradually became valuable as like the space generally exploded, and it had this cachet, this value for its historical position. But I don't think it was until CryptoKitties that it became, a meme, like a fad, like something that people really got excited about instantly.
Do you think of, so kind of what I'm hearing is like, Counterparty didn't actually initiate this, crazy future of finance moment, but perhaps even though, NFTs were kind of this kind of small, slower burn, still did kind of prove something.
That's what it did. Yeah. It was the first of a lot of things, and it proved that certain things were possible, and it ended up playing sort of a strangely pivotal role in the history of, I don't know, Bitcoin, of Ethereum. It sort of shaped how these things evolved, but it itself did not become the center of any large ecosystem.
Right.
So notably, like the first versions of Ethereum were actually counterparty metaprotocol, like counterparty style metaprotocols on Bitcoin. And Counterparty played a very critical role in the original op return wars because it was a large chunk of Bitcoin transactions at the time in 2014, 2015, where the Bitcoin core developers were angry that, Bitcoin was being used for something other than payments in Bitcoin. And so what happened is Counterparty launched. Counterparty enjoyed some like moderate adoption, proof of concept. Look at all these things that we can do, and it works. And then there was a lot of FUD and a lot of anger and frustration around blockchain bloat and block size and fees and op return size. And
same thing,
exactly same thing. And the Bitcoin
in 2013,
in 2013, 2014. And the Bitcoin core developers tried very hard to censor Counterparty. They actually changed the standardist rules to limit the limit op return.
That was the first big standard. That was when the limitation was created. There was not a limitation on op return at all before that, is my understanding.
Op return wasn't really enabled in the standards rules before 2014, but then when they implemented it smaller than planned, precisely to limit this sort of usage.
Got it.
And then they later expanded it. And so
was it like a 50-50 split in politics around that at the time?
No, it wasn't. This is the thing. So today, the ecosystem is large. And there are lots of different players with lots of different opinions and vested interests and histories, and they're just different economic actors with different roles. At the time, there weren't. There was the Bitcoin core developers, and they ran Bitcoin.
Huh.
Today, not the case. Today, they're all the infrastructure providers. They're the users as a group. There's the miners. That's a big thing. In 2014, the miners were completely apolitical. They just ran Bitcoin core.
That's it. No one thought like, oh, are the miners going to activate this thing? No one.
There was
that didn't occur to anyone.
It didn't occur to anyone. The miners weren't a mature enough group. They didn't have the expertise.
Was it still like people on GPU? I mean, was it still people on their laptops basically at that point, or like what was the mining? Was it an industry?
I think it was starting to shift professionally.
Okay.
It was getting big, but it didn't have. I mean, it just didn't have years and years of large quantities of money behind it. It wasn't industrial.
It was like small. It was like small business miners.
You could still do your own thing, but it grew. I mean, it grew rapidly until it became huge.
So the core devs were running the shop.
Everything, and so when the core devs,
which is still arguable. They just have more accountability to all these different groups today, right?
Now, I mean, they've been overridden. It has happened many times, and it's important, right? And there's also divisions within the core dev group, right? And I mean, now we have multiple. We've had multiple forks of Bitcoin, since that time, whatever Bitcoin Cash and Satoshi's Vision. We have users of a non-reference implementation of Bitcoin and Bitcoin knots. Now there's a diversity of opinions and a diversity of voices and interests.
And there's actually more core devs, period.
Oh, yeah,
right? There's
100%.
like more, like they're funded now. There's all these grant programs for core development. There's like just like a bigger number.
It's much more active,
way more humans.
At the time,
back then,
small.
who was it? Was it like Peter Willa and Gregory Maxwell and like?
Greg Maxwell was there. Gavin Andreessen was the main thing, right? I mean, he'd been handed the keys by Satoshi, if I remember correctly. And I mean, Peter Todd was around, always a voice of reason. And
love him. Love Peter Todd.
Luke Jr. was there as well and heavily involved, and I'd say leading the pack.
He was leading the op return.
I don't know if he was.
Peter Todd came on the show and basically said the early first op return wars were, I think he and Luke Jr. were at it back then.
100%. And we were a little bit in the middle of that too. It was a major pivotal moment in the history of Bitcoin because it pushed what happened is the Bitcoin core developers reacted very negatively to the adoption of Counterparty and said, this is terrible for Bitcoin. This is going to ruin Bitcoin. Everything is going, if the sky is falling, right? You've heard this before.
Of course.
And so they shut it down. And at the time, there weren't other voices. There weren't enough users. There was no counterbalance to that. And so a lot of people said, no, like blockchain bloat's real. And if you use Counterparty, then you are going to ruin Bitcoin.
How much of your decision to stop working on Counterparty was related to this kind of like governance challenge?
A significant chunk. And this was I think a factor for Ethereum as well.
It was draining.
Yeah.
You mean when you say a factor for Ethereum, meaning why Vitalik basically
he said as much. He said the censorship of Metaprotocols on Bitcoin is I think the reason why Ethereum is a separate blockchain.
Wow.
It's exactly, this is what happened. Bitcoin could have been, like, this is the counterfactual. Bitcoin could have been the locus of development and innovation in the blockchain space. And because the Bitcoin core developers, the only voice at the time, were so not just conservative, not just careful, but like really like just reactionary, and
kind of fear-mongering, it sounds like.
100%. It was FUD, right? It was the sky is falling if you use a Meta-Protocol. It pushed all the innovation elsewhere. It created Ethereum. Ethereum wouldn't have been another blockchain, a separate competitive force, if they hadn't said you can't build Counterparty and Mastercoin and all these other Meta-Protocols on Bitcoin. We're going to make it very hard for you to build on Bitcoin. And you can't censor Bitcoin. It just doesn't work, right? They said they would have limited the size of return, and so I said, okay, like watch me, and I implemented other ways of encoding data in Bitcoin. These were relatively primitive, and they weren't as like easy to use as what Ordinals uses these days, because of a sort of a vulnerability and an oversight in how Taproot works. So it was expensive, but yeah, it was a lot of fear mongering.
Do you think if you had stayed and been like, I'm going to plug through and we're just going to do this and I don't care what you say, is there like a world where it would just be like counterparty via Ethereum for market share? I mean, like,
I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say.
Do you think about that? Like, what would have happened if you stayed?
I mean, there are a lot of counterfactuals to consider, right? Like the space took a number of weird turns. Yeah, this was an important pivotal moment. I think in general, things were too early. I think in general, the space was not quite ready. If I'd stayed and plugged away at it, if the Bitcoin core developers hadn't been so anti-everything, if there'd been more Peter Todds and fewer Luke Juniors, things would have been different, definitely. And yeah, Bitcoin is still predominant, right? Like Bitcoin is still like just as successful as anything could possibly be. But you do have this, you did have this significant splitting of the ecosystem, right? And I don't think it had to be that way. I think it's a little unnatural that you had this splitting because of the politics from around that era.
So going back to the history, so you leave basically in like 2014 and you sort of hand Counterparty off to quote unquote the community.
Yeah.
Was there like an official maintainer or anything? I mean,
no, I handed it off to Robbie Dermody and other community members who built the wallet and that sort of thing. It sort of started out okay, and then the project foundered.
Why do you think that is?
There wasn't enough structure. First of all, we didn't have a nonprofit. We didn't have all this sort of infrastructure.
Was there money? I mean, were there like incentives?
There was $0.
That's still the issue with Counterparty today.
It is.
I mean, like, there's just like, what do you do if you don't have like a foundation
with funds?
People aren't getting paid, so they don't care.
Exactly. Yeah. Counterparty launched. Do you know how Counterparty launched? It has an interesting story. So, there had by the end of 2013, there had been a couple of ICOs, Mastercoin and NXT and a few others, and I didn't like it. I thought it was. First of all, I thought it was possibly illegal, and it was illegal. No, but no one got prosecuted, so it's
NBD.
Okay. Yeah, and so I didn't want to do that, and I was like, I mean, I thought that cryptocurrencies should take inspiration from Satoshi and from Bitcoin and say, like, this is a community asset, it's a community good. We're going to create this digital currency in a fair and decentralized way. And so the way we launched Counterparty was by doing what's called proof of burn, which had been theorized, like people had talked about it as an idea, but no one had implemented it. The basic idea was you would destroy your Bitcoin in a provable manner, and the indexer, the counterparty indexer, would watch and see when you destroyed your Bitcoin, and it would credit you the counterparty token, XCP, in reward. So you sort of turned your Bitcoin.
Was there a limit? Like, was there like
I think there was a per address limit. And I think there was a per address limit, if I remember correctly. But
like
it was
to
for
this
1
day,
month. No, for 1 month.
Oh, for 1 month.
There was a period.
Singular month where
window.
you could burn Bitcoin and create Counterparty token.
Correct. Yeah. XCP is the token.
And just really quick TLDR, why does Counterparty need a token? Because obviously now most Metaprotocols do not have tokens.
Because Counterparty can do more stuff than they can, that's what I would say. Because it has smart contracts, and you can't really do everything with. You can't do smart contracts with Bitcoin. Like you can't burn Bitcoin in proportion to how much computation you're spending. But you can't escrow Bitcoin trustlessly and so forth.
Do you need a token? You could like theoretically run smart contracts on like an EVM, for instance, without like a non-Bitcoin token, though.
You can do some amount of it. Like you can burn, you can destroy your Bitcoin in certain ways, but you have to like send it to an unspendable address. It's really ugly. Like how do you, or you have to pay to the miners, in which case the miners get to run everything for free. It's not secure. Like you can't. It creates denial of service attack vectors.
Are there specific use cases that you would say like really truly require a token?
I would say all smart contracts.
All smart contracts.
Yeah, you can't use Bitcoin as a proper gas token. Like you can't escrow Bitcoin. You can't destroy Bitcoin based upon how much computation you use. You just can't. The best you could do is like send the Bitcoin to another address, which creates gross dust output, or you can send it to miners. But you can't just use it as a gas token. Like Bitcoin isn't a gas token. It doesn't have it also doesn't have the economics of a gas token, right? Bitcoin's deflationary naturally, right? And you don't want gas to become more and more valuable over time. You want it to become like not particularly, you want it to stay affordable.
That gas would theoretically go to the miners, that then theoretically goes back into supply. I mean, this is how like BRC.
Yeah, but then a miner could do whatever they wanted. They could have an arbitrary amount of computation. They could DOS the network.
Okay, so that's sort of the issue is you actually don't want miners like collecting all of these.
You don't, no,
Bitcoin
because
gas fees.
Yeah, I don't think you do. People are trying to hack around it, I would say. Like Alkanes and BRC 2.0 are two projects right now that are trying to do Meta-Protocols with smart contracts.
With Bitcoin as the gas fee.
With Bitcoin as the gas. Like Alkanes doesn't have gas. It has a maximum computation per call and per block, and that's it. And so that you're not actually paying Bitcoin. And there's no incentive.
BRC 2.0 is similar? No.
So that's using EVM. It's EVM based,
EVM, right.
But they're also, I think, using Bitcoin.
They are using Bitcoin as the gas fee.
Again, it's not a gas. What it is you have to pay a Bitcoin fee to run your smart contract, but the amount of Bitcoin you pay is not in proportional to how much computation you do.
What does that functionally limit them from doing?
It limits them from, like, it's an economic problem. It's not like you can't run the code. It's that you're incentivized to run as much code as possible and to like take up all of to break all the indexers.
Oh, I see.
It doesn't, like, the issue is that you want the amount of fees you pay to be proportional to the cost to the network. And if you're using Bitcoin, that doesn't happen.
Got it.
Right. So it's not that you can't run you can run whatever smart contract you want on Bitcoin with a Meta-Protocol, but the economics don't work. Like you don't have the incentive to keep your code reasonable and to not break the network with a DOS attack.
So this is the argument for XCP, which is Counterparty's token, which was, kind of presented into the world in this free and fair launch style.
Yeah, it wasn't even the gas. So Counterparty doesn't like it was that you want a native token to like pay for counterparty functionality, right? Because the counterparty functionality is richer than what, say, Ordinals can do. Ordinals doesn't have any functionality, right? It has issue token, store data.
Right.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to do something like use a scarce resource, like in a namespace, right? Like for DNS, or if you want to use a prediction market, or if you want to do whatever, then you need fees, and you can't use Bitcoin for that.
Okay.
And so you need a native token.
So XCP happens, free and fair launch. This is sort of the nexus, I guess, of this is the proof of burn was the sort of invention here, I guess. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so like what happened after you left? You said that this was sort of the maintainer, kind of the existing maintainer, just sounds like just wasn't incentivized, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I left the project. I was gone for 8 years. I just sort of left.
What did you do? Did you just leave the space entirely?
I left the public blockchain space and I worked in the private blockchain space.
Okay.
I worked in the enterprise enterprise.
You went to the dark side.
I went to the dark side, exactly. I still think that blockchain technology is really very great for like institutional use cases, where you want a decentralized protocol for untrusting counterparties who need to transact and like who need to do like complicated financial transactions among them, where they don't trust anyone to maintain the database, more or less. And so it's been 5 years working in the enterprise blockchain space, building a bunch of like consensus systems and smart contract systems and privacy solutions and whatever for Wall Street, more or less.
Okay.
And then I left
you're sort of watching Counterparty kind of just, again, incentives aren't there. It's kind of like floundering. And then Ethereum happens, basically, is my assumption. And then you're like, okay, here we are. Ethereum is now happening.
Yes.
How was that moment watching Ethereum rip and do its thing? Yeah,
mixed feelings. I mean, there are many things that I like about Ethereum and many things that I don't. I think that like a virtual machine is a great innovation, and I think that it is strictly better than what Counterparty had, which was just smart, like hard-coded smart contracts. I didn't like the centralization. I didn't like the talking out of both sides of their face when it came to code as law, right? The DAO hack reversal, as an example.
You mean the primary golden example?
Yeah, I mean the first one, right? That was the slippery slope, and they slid right down it. And it's a funny thing that today, like Ethereum is actually one of the most decentralized blockchains out there, right? That's the irony. There's a lot of irony in the history of blockchains. At the time, I was like, I've always been a Bitcoiner, right? Like I always like the ethos of Bitcoin. I like the decentralization. I like the I like this. It's like cypherpunk culture, right?
You're like, I can't take this Ethereum thing seriously with this DAO hack reversal situation.
And also the techno utopianism, I'm not really behind that. I don't think that blockchains are going to revolutionize everything. I don't think that we should put everything on a blockchain. I think
there's specific use cases, and that's sort of what the deal is.
I think blockchains are great for finance, right? For DeFi. I think that you sort of want a trustless, decentralized, permissionless system when you're transferring value or interacting with value. But I don't think you want it for everything. And I don't think it's going to reshape society, like for the better per se. I think it's infrastructure. And I think it's wonderful, very cool infrastructure. But so I didn't really agree with the ethos and the culture. But the tech was like strictly superior than what Counterparty had, than what Bitcoin had.
They had a ton of money. They had the opposite situation.
Exactly. We had $0, right? Yeah. We raised $0, and then they went a couple months later and raised $20 million, which was a huge quantity at the time.
And it only grew from there.
And then
the token just ripped everyone's faces off.
Yeah. It did. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So Ethereum's happening. You're watching this. Mixed feelings, like probably many progressive Bitcoiners is sort of what I like to call folks who want you.
Bitcoiners.
That's my term for Bitcoiners who want utility of some kind, or decentralized DeFi really on Bitcoin in some way.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of doing your own thing, working on the dark side, private blockchain space.
Yeah, exactly.
Chilling. And then Ordinals happens, I guess, is sort of the next kind of chapter in the story, I presume.
It is, I think so, yeah. And then the real NFT bull market and craze, right? And people started using Counterparty again. I wasn't really watching it very carefully. I was doing other things. And I mean, I
when RarePepes were ripping, you were just like, that's cute,
I wasn't really
You weren't
aware.
really involved.
No, I wasn't involved.
Did you take pride in it when RarePepes were ripping and the Counterparty?
I can't. I really. It's hard for me to emphasize how little I was on Twitter and like watching these things. I wasn't really involved. No. I didn't notice until a little while later. I wasn't on Telegram. I wasn't involved. I was doing other things.
Interesting.
Yeah. Later, so when I found out, maybe after the bull market, I was like, oh, that's very cool. Look at this, then I became very proud. Then I was like, wow, look at all these people who are still using Counterparty. There's a whole community. It's active. It has this very cool culture, and it exists, and it's still there. And I was like surprised that it still existed. Right? Projects don't last that long in the blockchain space usually.
All right, guys, I want to take a quick break to thank you for watching and remind you to click the follow button on my profile if you want more Bitcoin technical deep dives like this. I also want to give a shout out to my partners for making the show possible. My leading partner, Best in Slot, just released the programmability module for BRC20, making the execution of smart contracts possible for the protocol. I know that's been long awaited by the BRC20 community. Alongside this release, Best in Slot put out what is arguably the most sophisticated DEX for trading Bitcoin native assets called Coin Cooker, which I also highly recommend checking out if you want to dive into the BRC20 trading game and get started executing smart contracts on Bitcoin. I'd also like to thank Cetrea, building one of the leading implementations of a BitVN-style bridge for Bitcoin. Cetrea is building what I think could become the canonical Bitcoin rollup, enabling programmability, scaling. Really anything is possible with a trust minimized bridge, which is the unique value prop of these BitVM-style rollups on Bitcoin. Lastly, I'm thrilled to announce my newest partner, Spark, which is the leading state chains protocol on Bitcoin. State chains builds upon what was made possible by the Lightning Network for payments, but without the liquidity constraints and the UX challenges that often make self-custodial Lightning impractical. Spark is also led by one of the leading payments infrastructure teams on the planet, including founders from PayPal, Facebook. They're incredibly well positioned to turn Bitcoin into a true institutional standard for payment systems around the world, and I couldn't be more excited to support what they're up to. All right, on that note, let's get back to the show.
Okay, so then Ordinals happened. That's really the next chapter.
Yeah, Ordinals happened, yeah.
Did you leave your private blockchain job? Why did you pay attention to Ordinals? Or did you?
I didn't. No, I didn't. When it was first ripping, I did not No,
Really?
No, I wasn't. I was out of the public blockchain space for 8 years. I mean, until like end of 2023.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
and 2023, that was like the year of Ordinals.
Yeah, the end of 2023.
What peaked your head back in? Like,
what? So first of all, I'd say after like, or maybe like at the tail end of the Ordinals excitement, of the peak of the Ordinals excitement, a couple of things were interesting. The first was that here's a Meta-Protocol that people are actually using. Like that, the big thing was that I had previously held this opinion that Bitcoin was never going to take off for smart contracts because of how slow it was, right? Because it's slow and expensive. It's 10-minute blocks.
You thought Meta-Protocols were dead, basically. Like,
I thought
Bitcoin Meta-Protocols were just never going to work. Ethereum was.
I thought that they couldn't
compete.
or I thought that it was hard for them to compete in terms of usability.
They still may not. We'll see how well they compete. I think that's a thesis that's being tested right now.
I have opinions on that.
Okay,
yes,
we'll get there.
Yes, but in this at this particular moment, I was surprised that like Bitcoin was getting as much usage as it was.
You were like, a Meta-Protocol is actually taking off. Like, how is this happening?
Yeah. And moreover, like one that has functionally the same thing as colored coins,
right.
Like from 10 years before, right? Like that's
but the colored coin. You needed the Ethereum NFT bull market.
You did.
Ordinals market would not have ripped
100%.
if we didn't have the NFT on Ethereum market ripping first. I mean,
this is the thing.
This is the thing.
You can't just build. Yeah, you can't just. The way I think about it is you can't just have smart contracts, or like you can't just add functionality without there being assets to use the functionality with. And what enabled all DeFi was NFTs, because it was, and stable coins, other things that came around after. It was the existence of these digitally native assets.
And arguably, to be fair, the RarePepe movement, probably, it's unclear if Ethereum NFTs would even have existed and plugged all the money and pushed all of the like marketing and comms that they did that really like blew the NFT market up to what it was if Counterparty hadn't existed
If
first.
RarePepes hadn't been selling it, whatever, Sotheby's for $70 million or whatever it is, right? Like these
cute collectibles. Yeah. Basically, it was like the cute collectibles of RarePepes ultimately is what spurred the fire under Ethereum to put like millions and millions of dollars worth of marketing budgets into like all of these NFT collections. And then we were ready for Ordinals 8-10 years 100%, later.
Yeah. It's funny. It's a funny, strange, ironic history. Definitely. So a couple of things, like one was seeing, okay, Meta-Protocols are able to get adoption despite the Bitcoin fees and the block time, which was important. Another big thing was that the miners started playing a larger role in the politics of the Bitcoin ecosystem. Again, this was a thing that was surprising to me, because from 2014, it was the Bitcoin core devs and they ran everything. And seeing these disparate parties say, no, we care what's happening with Bitcoin too, and we have an opinion, and we're going to, we're going to exercise our power. That was really helpful to see. Also, this was, the major technical innovation behind Ordinals was the use of the Taproot encoding, right, for inscriptions, and being able to see how easy it was to store very large quantities of data on Bitcoin, sort of post censorship, right, was very important.
Blew your mind.
It blew my mind, right?
Yeah.
In 2014. The Bitcoin core devs were saying, if you allow 80 bytes of op return, like everything is going to fall apart. And then with Ordinals and inscriptions, it was
4 megabytes.
Yeah, exactly. It was 400 kilobytes in a single output. Like, it was crazy, right? And at 4 times cheaper, and like everything was fine. Like the sky didn't fall. In fact, it was good for Bitcoin, right? This was an important thing to see. And so I started to poke my head back in. And what happened is the Counterparty community said invited me to come back. They said please come back and help.
Was that basically what happened? Like your old Counterparty friends were like, you have got to check out what's happening on Bitcoin right now.
It wasn't even that. It was also the Counterparty had a lot of drama internally
during the Ordinals era.
Yeah, exactly. During the Ordinals era, the whole 2020.
Like what?
Just internal stuff. Just
not
fighting over.
Related to Ordinals.
No, unrelated. Well,
was there a feeling of oh my gosh, we got to get our acts together and compete here?
No, it was after this. It was after a lot of the Ordinal stuff.
Okay.
When the NFT craze was happening, everyone was riding, everyone was sitting pretty, right? Like all their counterparty
Everyone's
bags
making
were really
money
heavy,
on
right?
their RarePepes.
Yeah, it was when the market started, fading a little bit, and everyone was like, "Oh, what do we do now?" And then everyone's fighting over who is maintaining the code base, and there was a lot of internal fracturing within the counterparty community, which had persisted for a long time.
It's
Stamps
also
is a good
interesting
example.
because I have actually had, I've spoken to many folks in sort of like the RarePepe movement. Rare Skrilla was on the show, good friends with Theo, like these folks. And I've gotten a chance to talk to, some people who are like, for lack of a better word, powerful in the counterparty community. And there seems to be like, it is mostly like cultural people, like not technical people.
Yeah.
And that feels like kind of an issue. Like when I'll like,
100%.
yeah.
This is the thing is counterparty was unmaintained. I mean, for 8 years. When I came back January 2024, the code was rotten. The tests hadn't been passing. The tests for the reference implementation for this financial protocol hadn't been running in over 6 years.
I mean,
broken, right?
Right.
There were consensus breaks. It was just a total mess.
No one's getting paid to do it. No one's going to do it.
And it was a culture of, we're doing our own thing. We're artists, we're creators, and so forth, right? And like that's what makes counterparty. But ultimately, like the thing needs to run, right?
Like you need real devs.
You need real devs, right? Like you need to be able to turn on a node or an indexer and have it work. And that wasn't quite where it was. And
everyone's kind of knows this about counterparty. It's sort of a
exactly.
thing.
I mean, the usability was terrible.
Right.
The primary wallet went down before, like in end of 2013 and like 2023 rather, and you couldn't bring it back up.
It's amazing that people felt comfortable holding $100,000 assets on this thing.
Exactly.
Like that is wild.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like I'd be nervous, but
100%. Yeah. It was. People stuck with it, and like more power to them for having done so. But it was sketchy, and it was sketchy for a long time. And that was, I'm sure it was also good for the community because it, added this little like, this exclusivity, right?
Right.
But it kept a lot of people out, and it kept it. It made things very liquid. It's an interesting, weird space.
It is. Counterparty is particularly like unique in this way. It really operates in like on its own beat.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're like, please come help us. We need a fearless leader. Like, come on.
Exactly.
Okay. This is like 2024, early 2024.
Yeah, early
basically.
2024.
Okay,
exactly.
So and so were you like, I'm sure I'm gonna come back and like fix this thing?
Yeah, more or less. Yes. I was like, this is amazing. I'm so glad you guys are still here. And look at all this cool stuff that you built. And I'm happy to help out. Like I left for various reasons, and like those reasons are not valid anymore. And is it
because you left this other job? Were people asking you to come back before this?
Yeah, it definitely happened.
They were,
but maybe not as earnestly. Definitely people were like trying to get involved. Like trying to do it. The space had reached a certain level of maturity. I was at a different place in life. And when I left Counterparty the first time, I was 26 years old. I didn't know anything. I'd never had a real job before.
Right.
And at this point I was ready. Like, okay, now I know what this responsibility is.
And the NFT and Ordinals markets had like done their thing. So it's a little bit more interesting.
100%. Yeah. Now, then there's this market, this community, there's these assets, all this.
It's real.
Yeah. It's a real thing. It's not going anywhere. Like Counterparty is not going anywhere.
No.
And that's very powerful.
Totally. Okay, so did you officially come back as lead maintainer?
I came back. Yeah, exactly.
So you are currently now, after 8 years hiatus, the lead maintainer of Counterparty.
Exactly.
Coming back after creating this thing 10 years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Epic.
Yeah. Well, a long time ago.
Are people helping you? Are you enlisting like?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the community is helping. People are starting to build on Counterparty again, and people are launching new projects, marketplaces, wallets, etc. There's been a bit of a renaissance.
What is the future of Counterparty right now? Now that you're back.
A bunch of stuff. There are a couple of things. Like one is fair minting. Like people are actually minting assets and doing this fair minting protocol, which is a decentralized token creation system. Originally originated on Counterparty, and then Counterparty, the protocol didn't have good support for it, and so people started building clones elsewhere, Ethereum and so forth, and then whatever we brought it back. Atomic swaps are a big thing, which is sort of taken from the ordinal space, which is, you can do a trustless atomic swap trade between Bitcoin and another
using PSBTs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Same thing.
Okay.
Right? things like that. I mean, most of the effort
Cleaning it up.
most of the effort was fixing it. I mean, really just trying to like keep it from falling apart because it was on its last legs. And that's done. Like, thankfully it's done. We've like added a couple of big features like these things. I mean, made the like added support for taproot addresses, inscriptions, for like cheaper data storage.
But the RarePepes are safe now.
100%,
I mean, that's
RarePepes
the
are
bottom
safe.
line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Consensus is fixed. You can now turn on a node and it will run. Like, it will catch up.
Yeah.
When I came
you
back,
can sync a node in like
you
a
can sync a node,
reasonable
exactly.
amount of period of time.
a day, right? Whereas when I came back, it just wasn't possible. And yeah, people are building new things. I've been building a lot of stuff. I've been building. I built a marketplace called Horizon Market, and a like a free and open source wallet. Different projects on top of it.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay, so is that your primary focus right now?
No.
That's a side gig.
No, it's still going. Like, I still spend a lot of time on it.
Right.
But Counterparty is what it is, right? Counterparty is not changing very fast. It's not going to change very fast, and people don't want it to change very fast. They want it to grow and evolve, but its identity is pretty fixed because it's been around since the beginning of 2014.
Right.
And so
there's not like a ton to do, basically.
There isn't,
the hard
right?
part's over. You cleaned it up. You fixed it.
Exactly. And it's being
now.
maintained, right?
It's being maintained.
And I like moving fast. Like, I like building stuff. And Counterparty isn't the place to like do big radical shifts because the community doesn't particularly want it. They want incremental change.
It deserves kind of a certain level of ossification at this point,
yeah.
right? Like, don't screw with the Pepes, you know? Like, 100%. Just let it do its thing.
Yeah. You don't want to screw with it. I had to do a lot of whatever, open heart surgery on it to fix it, but no, it's just stability is very important.
Right.
And no, so what I've been working on is a new protocol called Kontor for the past year.
Okay.
And we announced it, a few weeks ago, like a month ago. And it's very exciting to me. It's a next generation Meta-Protocol. That's how I would describe it.
Next generation Meta-Protocol. Can I ask before we get into Kontor, how influenced were you by BRC-20? I mean, we talked about Ordinals, but were you there? Were you watching the BRC-20? Because I'll tell you, I was there, and that was actually what pushed Ordinals into like the stratosphere of trading.
Yeah.
Was like,
it's a large chunk of Ordinals.
I mean, it was easily like it went from like 10x the market cap in like 2 weeks. Of all Ordinals related assets. So I mean, would you say that like the sort of broader and because it introduced this DeFi tokens world, it was more than NFTs, it was more than monkey pictures on the blockchain, right? How is that sort of your goal in general with the future of Meta-Protocols?
I'd say it's even more ambitious than that, definitely.
Okay, but you want finance,
like rich functionality, right? And people like naturally. I mean, even with BRC-20 and now BRC 2.0, there's which are sort of efforts to like incrementally increase the functionality of Bitcoin, add smart contracts, add a virtual machine. I think that people are still thinking small. They're still thinking Bitcoin is mostly for payments. And we can add this up. We can do we can add a VM over here. We can, add some, we can stuff data in an op return there. People aren't thinking big. And
hot take.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Hot take.
Yeah. Everyone's like all the DeFi is on Solana and Ethereum and whatever. And like, we want to get a piece of it. We want to add something to Bitcoin, but the assumption is that you can't build a big, rich platform on top of Bitcoin. And you can see this with I think BRC-20 and BRC 2.0. BRC 2.0 is like, it's a copy and pasted EVM. And it doesn't have its own token. Like you're shoehorning a smart contract system into Bitcoin as a proof of concept. Like it feels like a proof of concept with small, incremental, slow development doesn't build a full platform.
So what are the specific, improvements, I guess, for lack of a better word, that you're presenting with Kontor? Like, tell me about this.
Yeah, there are a bunch, and they all sort of build on each other.
Okay.
So it has smart contract system. It has it has a WebAssembly-based smart contract system. You write in like normal code, like Rust initially, but other things, JavaScript and Go and so forth, all compile to it, and it's much easier to use than other like run any language system.
Okay, so WASM, so it uses WASM.
WASM, exactly.
Okay,
but better. WASM,
but better.
Yeah, but better.
WASM,
exactly.
but better.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will explain why.
Okay,
if you want. It's nerdy, but it makes it easier to use. The other major thing is scalability and latency.
Okay.
And this is a thing I haven't talked about publicly yet, but have spent a lot of time working on this over the past few months. Everyone assumes that if you're building on Bitcoin, you're limited in terms of your performance. Like
10-minute blocks.
10-minute blocks and 4 megabyte block sizes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not true. Turns out you can do cool things with Metaprotocols if you try and if you have a native token.
But you won't get to settle until you get 10-minute blocks.
The definition gets a little interesting, right? You're like, how long does it take to settle on Bitcoin? It's not 10 minutes.
I mean, you're right. Yeah.
Right? It's not like it matters.
Right. Is it 10 minutes average times like 6 confirmations? Like,
exactly.
what's
Why
the
6
deal?
confirmations?
Right.
The answer is you have a probabilistic confirmation, right? With economic backing, right? You've seen a couple of blocks with your transaction, and you know that there's a very strong economic incentive for the network not to reverse your transaction, right? And so you can bet. But turns out that like reversing even a single block on Bitcoin takes an enormous quantity of money and power, right? Like you can't, it's hard to like force that. And so at least for transactions like, I don't know, like less than millions of dollars in value, you can get economic guarantees with like sub-block confirmation that work really well. So I can talk about how that works. It's called optimistic confirmation, and it's a way that Kontor is able to do sub-block confirmation while relying on Bitcoin for 100% of finality.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it doesn't go in the Bitcoin blockchain,
okay,
it doesn't happen.
Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
Optimistic confirmation.
Yes.
Let's go. Okay, so explain this.
The basic idea is you have you have the Kontor native token called Core, and then you build a Byzantine fault tolerant prediction market on the Bitcoin fee market. So you effectively say you look at transactions as they come in.
So say that again. A Byzantine fault tolerant auction mechanism?
Prediction market.
Prediction market.
Prediction market. So you effectively predict whether transactions are going to be included in a Bitcoin block.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So you separate out the ordering from the finality.
Right. Okay.
Right? So,
which arguably, like, I mean, it kind of reminds me, like, miners are sort of kind of doing this when they're deciding which transactions to even put into a block.
Yeah. So you end up betting on that, right?
Right.
So more or less the way the Kontor works, like at a high level,
it probably looks similar to like what like a mempool block looks like before it's confirmed. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so you're building this on top of Bitcoin. So you create your Kontor transaction, which is a Bitcoin transaction, and then you submit it to a group of like Kontor nodes or stakers who then say the fees for this transaction are sufficiently high that we're pretty sure it's going to get confirmed the next 12 blocks or 24 blocks. And so what they then do is they say, if it gets confirmed, here's the order that transaction will appear in the Kontor network.
Interesting.
And then they bet on that. They say, I'm putting down some stake that this is the order that it will get confirmed. And if it does, this is the order.
Whoa.
And then if
interesting.
it doesn't get confirmed, they lose that stake. They've screwed up, right? Like that's a bad bet on their part.
Yeah.
But if they're right, and they're probably going to be right, because if you have like blocks that are not 100% full and you have a reasonable fee market.
Well, you're just a statistical probability.
Exactly, right? And your probability, then you can say, well, the stakers put money on this. I can accept that for a coffee.
So I was going to say, the stakers, they can get slashed, essentially.
100%. Yeah, they get slashed.
So where does the slashed money go?
It just gets destroyed.
It just gets destroyed.
Yeah, it's
burned.
Yeah.
It's just burned. So you're betting on the fact that other people are taking on risk.
100%.
Essentially.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Like you're like, it's sort of a trust model through
it's economic incentives, which is how Bitcoin works, right? You're like when your transaction gets confirmed, what you're trusting is that the Bitcoin miners aren't going to just burn money to reverse your transaction, because they could.
Interesting.
It's the same exact model. It's an economic security.
P.S. This is a mechanism that could be modularly plugged into any Meta-Protocol, right? I mean, am I hearing that with its own? Oh, it needs this. Okay, so you do need a token to do
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
For doing everything interesting you do. That's my position.
Interesting. Hot take.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Come at me with the hot takes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So this would be the first. This is sort of. I mean, that's another key distinction, obviously, that we're making between BRC 2.0 or Alkanes, for that matter, and Kontor would be. It's going to have a token.
Yeah, it's going to have a token. Yeah, it's going to have a different smart contract system. It's going to have optimistic consensus, which gives you 2-second latency for your transactions, assuming that you'll pay a fee
wild.
for it. Right?
That's super
you have to pay more,
interesting.
right? There's a fee, right? But
you couldn't do it without a token. There's
Correct.
no universe where you could do optimistic verification without a token.
No, you need people to be able to bet and stake and have that stake get slashed.
Right. You need a proof of stake mechanism, basically,
exactly,
in order to make this function. Interesting. Oh, you know how you could do it, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, we should talk about this later. But now there's like Bitcoin native state, all these Bitcoin native
the trust model is
like
problem.
With
it's
like the Babylon,
It's all multi-sig. It's all just, please don't steal my money. You know? I just, it's fine. It's fine. It's not.
Jeremy Rubin is working on a version of this. Maybe he's like one of like the brains who could like potentially solve this problem. Maybe this problem will get solved. Who knows?
I feel many things to say on this. Like, who's trying to solve it is the ZK proof guys, right? Everyone who's doing all the ZK knowledge, zero knowledge proof systems, they're trying to do it. They're trying to shoehorn it into Bitcoin. It doesn't work very well. The security is not there. The trust model is not there. The performance and the economics are really not there.
Okay, so this takes me to my next like line of questions that I wanted to ask you. We'll get some more hot takes here, which is L2s versus Meta-Protocols.
This is the thing, yeah.
This is the thing.
I think it's the thing, yeah.
Let's go.
Everyone's been trying to scale Bitcoin up for a long time. They've said Bitcoin is slow, Bitcoin is expensive, and Bitcoin is limited in its functionality. How do we do it? And the strategy that everyone's taken is to scale it horizontally. They sort of say Bitcoin's a database. And so we're going to build parallel blockchains, and then we're going to sync between them. This is the idea behind sidechains. Going back to 2013 or something like that. We'll build another consensus system, and then you'll sync between them with a two-way peg.
Right.
The problem with that is, first of all, now you have two blockchains. And a blockchain is a system for coming to consensus on transactions. Now you have two things. You have to each come to consensus on their own thing, and then you have to come to consensus between them. Like you've subverted the whole security mechanism that you were trying to preserve, right? The second thing is that it's fundamental, like building a second blockchain, building a second ordering system, building a second proof system is fundamentally parasitic to Bitcoin. You're moving transactions off of Bitcoin when you do that.
I think this is the key issue, right? This is like Paul Stork's argument. I mean, this is where did merge mining go?
Yeah.
Merge mining has its own problems, obviously, centralization risks, et cetera. So this is the issue is if you take transactions off of L1, then miners don't get paid and you have miners centralization.
100%. Yeah. And no one's incentivized to do it. And it's one thing if you could just sort of do it easily, and then people would do it anyway. I don't think it would be good for Bitcoin. But it'd be possible. People aren't very interested in it, right? It's a technical solution to a non-technical problem. Like it introduces these critical economic issues. And usability issues, because then you're creating a whole other wallet with a whole other address, a whole whatever the thing is, right? And you're moving your assets out of Bitcoin. Feels like you're moving assets out of Bitcoin, and it's not good for Bitcoin.
So essentially, and let me just see if I'm getting this right, because I'm sort of wrapping my brain around this in real time. The issue with L2s functionally, right, is you're moving transactions off of Bitcoin, which leads to potentially miner centralization. Miners aren't getting paid. Meta-Protocols sort of guarantee that miners will get paid, but the problem with Meta-Protocols is then you're theoretically up until now limited to these 10-minute blocks and latency issues and et cetera.
Yeah.
So if you can solve the 10-minute block issue, basically,
that's a big thing.
Then and various other issues involved with these kind of like pure play Meta-Protocols, fees, for lack of a better
transactions per second, also the thing that I've worked on.
Well, fees we should get back to.
We can get to that. Yes, exactly.
Let's talk about the fees. But right now we're just talking 10-minute blocks.
Yeah, this is a big thing, right? Everyone's been trying to scale the system by building it out, and it has these issues. It's an engineering so first of all, L2s is a broad category. Lightning is very different from a ZK rollup. Right? They're different. And Lightning is much more like Bitcoin. It's much more like on top of Bitcoin than something that might call itself an L2 like Stacks, right? It's a broad category. I mean, originally Counterparty was an L2. Now it's not an L2. Now it's an L1.5 or something. I don't know.
Right.
So if we talk about like anything where there's an alternative. When I use L2, I mean, when I use the term, I mean something that has an alternative consensus mechanism, alternative ordering mechanism, and then some kind of peg or linkage back to Bitcoin, like a sidechain or like a rollup. Those, I think that they're competitive with Bitcoin.
they're competitive. I mean, and they certainly are for fees. And I think that there's a strong argument for that. And there's, probably not enough people raising the alarm bells, but some. I can think of some notable
Everyone's
people.
frustrated, right? Everyone wants there to be a future for Bitcoin, and it's impossible to make the tiniest change to the Bitcoin standardness rules without it being, a huge...
Well, and this is why everyone thinks that L2's right. I mean, I think that's why people are so moved to push to L2s. Is they don't think anything's possible on Bitcoin. But this Meta-Protocol...
Yeah, I want to prove them wrong.
Yeah, you want to prove them wrong. This is your goal.
This is the thing.
Okay, so optimistic verification is theoretically the thing that solves the 10-minute block issue.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
Optimistic verification. I'm sold on optimistic verification.
Yeah. The second thing is throughput, right? Like everyone knows that everyone wants Bitcoin to be a worldwide payment system, right? And they know that it's limited to 7 to 10 transactions per second, based upon the block size, right? It isn't, not with the Meta-Protocol, right? And the way you do this is very simple. You just don't use regular Bitcoin signatures optionally. The issue,
how? How do you not use regular Bitcoin signatures?
You use a different signature scheme. Like you specifically use the BLS signature scheme that Ethereum adopted 5 years ago now.
Is that just smaller signature? What is a BLS signature?
It's scalable.
Scheme?
It's aggregatable. You can take an arbitrary number
of
signatures. You just use signature aggregation.
Okay, yeah,
optional, right? If you want to, with Kontor, if you want to use a regular Bitcoin address, done. Do it. Use your regular Bitcoin wallet. Have fun. It's fully supported. But if you want lower transaction fees and you want higher throughput, you just sign the transaction with a different key.
Okay.
Right, and then you send all your transactions to whatever it is, a staker, any untrusted party. You do not have to trust them at all. They aggregate the signatures. They can take a fee, and then they compact the transactions. And so with Kontor, we've been able.
There's no trust involved with this?
No, none, zero, no trust.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just
because they don't have access to funds. They're just basically doing some math for you.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
just
no custody involved.
Yeah, you take 1,000 transactions, each with their own BLS signature, and they can produce 1,000 transactions with one signature.
Right.
Right?
Without any custody risk whatsoever.
And Bitcoin was never designed for the high throughput. It wasn't designed to scale well. And the signatures are most of the data. Like in a Bitcoin transaction, whatever it is, 200 bytes or something like that, it's mostly signature.
Why don't we do this now? Just for
We should. We should.
Bitcoin,
I think
Bitcoin should just be used. Is it BSL?
BLS.
BLS.
Yeah.
I wasn't even familiar with this. I feel like in the scaling conversation, I never hear about this.
I don't know why. I think that it's one thing that I very much appreciate the general conservatism when it comes to Bitcoin's protocol. I think
is this not conservative? Like, what are the risks associated with it? I mean, it sounds like
again, it's been in production
moderate.
for years. Yeah, I think it's very moderate,
and it doesn't require any changes to the code base or anything.
To Bitcoin, it would require significant changes.
Oh, you need a soft fork for this.
Yeah, you would need a hard fork for this. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a soft fork. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because they need to be able to read that.
It would be a protocol change.
Oh, it would be a protocol change.
It would be a significant protocol change.
Oh, so this is like a big deal.
They've talked about it. Like, this isn't a wild idea. They decided that they didn't really need to.
This isn't like something you're building tomorrow. This is something where it's like it's going to require
oh no,
Bitcoin
Kontor could do it easily because we don't have to do a fork. We're building this from scratch. So Bitcoin is, does that make sense? So BLS is
and then Kontor just puts it on chain.
Exactly.
The results essentially
exactly.
on chain.
So you put the aggregated Kontor signature in a Bitcoin transaction. You can scale Kontor transactions as much as you want.
I see. Because Kontor uses Bitcoin script.
Yes,
so
exactly.
this is right. Okay.
Yeah. So Bitcoin itself, should Bitcoin adopt BLS signatures? I don't know. Maybe it would be a significant protocol change. You should be very conservative when it comes to changing the Bitcoin protocol. But Meta-Protocols can innovate.
One of the sort of things, and we're kind of going backwards a little bit, but when people talk a lot about, you said we're using WASM, we're not using EVM. I want to dig into a little bit there because obviously I think some of the, there's some advantages to using something like EVM the sense that you can copy paste all this code. Let's just move the entire Ethereum ecosystem over to our Meta-Protocol.
That's what they say. You can't really do that because you're not working with Ethereum addresses. I implemented the EVM in Counterparty on Bitcoin in 2014.
Okay.
It's not an original idea.
To implement EVM on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I did it.
Okay.
It's copying and pasting a virtual machine on Bitcoin is not a hard or particularly even interesting thing to do.
Okay.
The hard part is making it.
But it's useful. I mean, the claim is that it's practical because then you can.
That's the thing is like, so first of all, so like the reason you don't do it is because the EVM was designed for the Ethereum ecosystem, and like you need to integrate with Bitcoin UTXOs and Bitcoin transactions and Bitcoin signatures and all this sort of stuff. And
that's the hard part.
That's the hard part, right? And with BRC 2.0, you can't copy and paste your Ethereum contracts onto BRC 2.0 and have them work, or at least
there's got to be some sort of like adaptation.
There's an adaptation, exactly, right? Because of the way that they do signature.
But that adaptation might be easier than like
it might
building a whole ecosystem from scratch.
100%, it might.
But you're kind of making the bet that the performance enhancements of using WASM and kind of building Kontor the way you are just makes you're willing to take that bet.
Exactly. Yeah, I think using the EVM as the basis for your smart contract system is a defensible position.
Yeah.
I think it is a very reasonable position, and I would never criticize it like on first principles.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're trading off. I think it is a standard. It is widely adopted. It has all the tooling. Yada yada yada.
Right. They will have an easier time in some ways with certain kinds of builder issues.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I think that there are a lot of significant trade-offs to doing so. And with Kontor, we made the particular judgment that we didn't want to stick with EVM, and we didn't want to copy and paste that. We wanted to use WebAssembly, and WebAssembly in a particular way, which makes it better.
Are you intimidated by the fact that will mean basically building the entire DeFi environment from scratch, essentially, and doing? You are not.
No, I mean it's a big thing, but this is sort of the funny thing. The EVM was designed by Vitalik when he was a 19-year-old computer science student.
Yeah.
And it feels like it. Like it looks like it. And there's been infinite money poured into the ecosystem since then.
Right.
But
it's not the most performant thing in the world.
It's not the most performant or usable or practical or secure thing in the world. And I mean, it was 2015 when they were talking about rewriting it from scratch. Like EVM 2.0 or Ethereum 2.0 has a long storied history.
Vitalik talks about moving to WASM.
100%.
Yeah,
he's the first person. Or Risk, or pick a thing, right?
Right.
The reason is because it's not great. The thing is that the EVM, because it was like architecturally very, very good, but in implementation left a lot to be desired, it set this expectation that smart contracts have to be annoying and weird to write. That writing a smart contract should feel very different from writing regular software. And I've always thought that is not a reasonable assumption. You can make writing smart contracts very easy. You can make it like writing regular code, like regular Rust, regular JavaScript, or whatever. It doesn't have to be the weird pseudo JavaScript syntax that the EVM or that Solidity is. It could just be like good code. And we're going in that direction. We want to show that like it could just be easy. This isn't the most exciting feature of Kontor because people have been doing smart contracts, on WebAssembly for a while, right? Write your smart contracts in Rust has been a thing for a while.
But it's a major architectural choice.
It's a major architectural choice, right?
Yeah.
We've said it's just going to be so easy to write your contracts that you don't have to worry about it, right? And this is, of course, a different situation when it comes to with LLMs and code assistants. It's now easier to write code. We think the security, the performance benefits, the security will be better with.
And would you say this was like somewhat influenced by the fact that like there's now sort of enough precedent, I guess, in like blockchain related
people are generally
development.
moving away from the EVM, right? Like it's
Cosmos, blah, blah,
exactly,
blah.
yeah,
right.
Yeah, Cosmos, WASM, Polkadot, like pick a thing, like
WASM is being used.
WASM
There's
is being
people
used.
who know how to use WASM.
Exactly, yeah. The thing is, you don't even need to like when if you do the WASM thing right, then you're just writing regular code, right? And we think that that's where the ecosystem is moving for good reason.
Fair. Okay, so let's go back. So we have optimistic verification
Consensus,
and we have, optimistic consensus, which I think is so cool. I'm obsessed. That's my favorite part so far.
Cool.
And then BLS.
Yeah. BLS signature aggregation.
BLS signature aggregation on the Meta-Protocol layer, on the indexing layer. But then that doesn't matter because like you're just whatever the state is on the indexing layer, you just like effectively like execute on Bitcoin. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So with that, you get massively increased transactions per second on Bitcoin using Kontor, right, in the Meta-Protocol layer. We do a couple other things as well besides just aggregation, but you can scale the Kontor on Bitcoin to hundreds, thousands of transactions per second in using regular Bitcoin blocks.
This is also like, just like in my mind as I'm putting this all together, makes more sense now, like where the stakers are coming into play also, right? Because like they're essentially taking responsibility for these like aggregated signatures and making sure that like the state that's being printed onto Bitcoin is correct.
They don't have to. So for the signature aggregation, you don't need to trust them at all. You could use.
Oh, you don't?
No. The signature aggregation is 100% trustless procedure.
Okay.
That said, it's nice to have the currency because then you can pay them fees for doing the signature aggregation service.
Right.
But theoretically, someone could offer it for free and it would be no problem.
So it's just the optimistic verification where the stakers is like necessary. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have throughput.
Yep.
We're solving the throughput problem with Metaprotocols.
Yeah.
Other Metaprotocols are not doing this right now.
Nope.
I mean, BRC2, they're not even talking about it.
Correct.
I mean, that's just not even a thing. This is what you mean by thinking big.
Yes.
Solving big picture Bitcoin problems.
Build on top of Bitcoin.
That are like currently only being addressed by like the L2 space, really, not the Metaprotocol space. You're going after the L2s. You're not really going after other Metaprotocols right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's 100%. That's it. Exactly.
Okay. All right. So throughput, 10-minute blocks. Fees? Is that also
exactly. Yeah, when you do the signature
aggregation?
100%,
Okay, so the signature aggregation
fees are massively lower because the transactions are effectively much smaller.
Signature aggregation is actually really the solution to like so many problems.
Yeah, it's most of the data in a Bitcoin transaction, and it's
where the scaling comes from.
Exactly. Yeah, so you could just do many, like the transactions are smaller. There are other optimizations as well. You use things like compression, which has been standard in the Ethereum space, the L2 space, for a long time. No one does it in Metaprotocols. Why is there no compression? I don't know.
So are those the key two differentiating factors between like programmable BRC20s for that matter and Kontor is these two? I mean,
there's one more major feature that we have because, again, thinking big. And this is file storage.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I hear Casey Rodarmor is interested in file storage. Did you talk about this with him on Hell Money?
No, this was before. I mean, I talked about it. I talked about it with him a little bit after privately, but not when I was on Hell Money.
Okay.
So the basic idea is people want to store their data on Bitcoin, right? Like they want Bitcoin security for their data. They want some data that can store forever, whether it be NFT data or financial data or whatever it is.
Ordinals prove this.
Ordinals prove this, right? Massive adoption.
This was like one of the key things about Ordinals is the concept of forever data.
Exactly. Stamps is originally Counterparty. It's a fork of Counterparty. It does the same thing.
Love Stamps.
Love Stamps. 100%. Yeah. They're great. They were kicked off Counterparty. That's the whole thing.
Oh man, we'll get back to that. Yeah.
But on the other hand, there are like limitations if you're storing the data directly in Bitcoin, right? Like, first of all, you have a size limit, right? 4 megabyte blocks. Fees are, high, right? They cost a lot. The question that I sort of was asking myself is given that people want this forever data, can you build a system that gives you all of this, the security of being on Bitcoin without actually putting the data directly on Bitcoin inside Bitcoin transactions? And I think you can. And we designed a whole system and there's a white paper and a spec and all this sort of stuff out there. And this is actually a really good case where you do use zero knowledge proofs.
Oh, interesting.
This is a place where you absolutely want to use it.
Because of compression.
Because of compression, exactly, effectively, right?
So love ZKPs for compression.
Exactly. So you use a compact recursive zero knowledge proof that is like a proof system that is powered by Bitcoin. So the basic idea is you store your data on some node. Someone's running some computer somewhere. You give them the data. They commit to storing that data, and then every Bitcoin block, the counterparty, the Kontor indexer uses the Bitcoin hash to generate a challenge to test those nodes to see if they're actually storing the data that they have committed to store.
Oh, interesting.
And then those nodes have to produce a proof on Bitcoin that they are actually storing that data in some time period.
Interesting. This doesn't require any software changes to Bitcoin. This does not require any
You're just storing
ZK. You don't need to verify anything. Okay.
Bitcoin doesn't care about this.
Bitcoin does not care.
It's all just more or less stuffing in the
This is just like it's a proof on the indexer layer. You're proving to Kontor that the data is being stored, and you're doing it by making sure that hashes. Repeat that again. So the hash from.
So there's a challenge that's generated in the Kontor indexer.
Okay, right.
And then the nodes need to produce and publish to Bitcoin a proof that they actually are storing the data that they said they were.
Oh, so they publish a hash
Yes.
and they put it on Bitcoin,
Yes.
basically, which
Yeah.
is kind of almost roll-up-y.
It's 100% roll-up-y.
It's roll-up-y.
But
it's
it's just-
roll-ups for data.
Exactly, for data. It's roll-ups for data, right? It's
Okay.
not competing with Bitcoin transactions. Like
Okay.
it's not that kind of roll-up. It's not we're going to build an alternative to Nakamoto consensus and move all the transactions off-chain to scale them. It's rather the transactions are on Bitcoin, the data's not.
Oh my God.
Which makes more sense.
Yeah, no, it makes
right?
total sense.
Bitcoin's a transaction layer. Blockchains are transaction layers. And so you can keep the whole file storage system on Bitcoin. You can have the Bitcoin block hash generate the challenges.
Right.
But
it's a meta-protocol for data in the sense
Yeah.
that it's like everything's happening on some other layer, but you're just proving that the data exists by like putting hashes of that data
Yeah.
on Bitcoin every 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of like open timestamps. Peter Todd has an open
timestamps is, I mean, it's a great project. It's just a spec, right? Like there's no like the proving is just you just put the hash. Like this is not just a hash.
Right,
This is an
right.
actual zero knowledge proof, and it's a compact recursive zero knowledge proof that you're storing all of this data. It's like,
So you think open timestamps could be manipulated?
no, it's not that it could be manipulated. It's that
Oh.
it doesn't provide availability guarantees.
Oh, it doesn't provide availability.
There are no-
Right.
about this-
It proves that something happened, but you can't like get it back.
Correct,
Right? You
yeah.
can't. It doesn't prove that the data is being stored anywhere. It only proves that the data occurred at a
Exactly.
certain point.
Exactly.
In time.
What we're solving is the availability problem.
Got it.
Which is like a big problem.
That's the
right?
key
It's
issue.
the key
I mean,
thing.
people, right? You don't just want to prove that like open timestamps makes sense.
It's
I
great,
love it for
100%.
things
It's
like
great.
voting, right?
Yeah.
Like this vote happened at this time.
Yes.
But if you want to be able to get data in
Yeah.
the future and make sure that it's in a safe place, that's
Exactly.
really what this is for.
Exactly. And if this has a number of advantages over other, systems out there, they're blockchainy systems that are nominally solving the storage problem, right?
Mm.
Filecoin is an example, C is an example, Arweave is an example. They all have their issues.
If the data does poof and go away, though, like you can't really, this system doesn't prevent that. It just, you find out about it in 10 minutes.
Oh, no, it strongly economically disincentivizes it.
Oh, it does.
Oh, yeah.
How do the economics of
You get
this
slashed
work?
badly. Like the nodes, if they can't produce a proof,
they
get slashed bad. Yeah.
Oh,
100%.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a key
And it's
part of
designed to
this
replicate the
mechanism.
data very heavily, right? 20, 30, 40, 50 nodes are storing your data, right? Like it's
Interesting.
not designed to be competitive with AWS. It's not designed to be cheap, but it's also not designed to be like, it's not as expensive as stamps or inscriptions. It's you're not storing the data in Bitcoin and you're not storing it on a server somewhere, but you have really, really, really strong availability guarantees.
So Kontor basically solves effectively scaling, right? Like it solves all the like layer 2 problems. And then it also has this sort of like fun extra feature
Yes.
of having this like file storage mechanism.
It needs to be solved, right? Like this is an important thing. Bitcoin, like this is to a large extent what is at the center of the debate about what Bitcoin is and how are you supposed to use it and block space and fees and so on. If we can say, here's an efficient way of using Bitcoin to secure your data in a scalable fashion, that's a big thing.
I love it. I mean, I remember like back in the day, like in the ordinal, when I was sort of more focused on ordinals and, people were thinking like, the Alexandria library or whatever, like, how do we make sure that all of these like this really important information is actually secured, right?
Yeah.
Can we put it on Bitcoin? No, it's too expensive.
It's not practical.
This is a solution.
It's good for small stuff. I was stuffing data Bitcoin transactions way back when. This is a scalable solution for it.
Interesting. Oh my gosh. Well, that's super exciting. So when is this happening? Like, is this?
Yeah. So
when
exactly, right? When everything, when Moon. So we announced the project, I think 6 weeks ago. And we're live on Signet. Kontor's live. The smart contract system is working. We just
all
published
3 of these characteristic features.
No, sorry. The smart contract system is
Okay.
live and working.
Okay.
The SDK is working. We haven't implemented, or we haven't published the implementation of the optimistic consensus or the file storage system.
Which are the key differentiating
Those are key
factors.
differentiating. Yes.
So what's
exactly.
live
Yeah.
right now is basically like competitive with like a BRC 2.0
Yeah, I would
maybe.
say that's fair. Yeah.
But
Yes.
like the goal is to like outperform with these other
100%.
features.
Yes.
Interesting.
yeah,
I'll
and
be watching.
The nice thing is that the file storage system is implemented as a smart contract, right? Like it's
interesting.
100%. Like you can that's the whole thing,
Wow.
right? Something you couldn't do in the EVM. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
but
the world computer, after all.
Exactly. This is the thing. I'm still waiting. Yeah, you can do this. It is a smart contract. This is being written right now. All the cryptography is done. That's published, actually. It's all of the zero knowledge proof system for the file storage system done. We're starting the audit of the third-party audit.
Who'd you work with on that? Did any interesting ZKP people?
I did it.
You did it. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice work.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not easy.
The fact is that the ecosystem is pretty mature at this point.
Okay.
The Ethereum space has done a lot.
So you can pull.
Oh yeah,
from
100%.
Existing things.
Yeah, I use a Microsoft library for the Nova proof
There's
system.
ZKP libraries.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. This is a whole new world to Bitcoiners like me.
And if you're not trying to solve the thing that the Ethereum world is trying to solve is everything all at once, right? They're trying to build the world. They're trying to do zero knowledge proofs for arbitrary computation, which is, I think, really hard. And secondly, probably not secure. And third, I don't know why. I don't know why you'd want to do it. I think it is competitive with blockchains and economically problematic. And if you're doing something a bit narrower, which is just trying to solve data availability, it works great, right? You're just trying to come up with proofs that you have the data based on a challenge. That's perfect for it.
Love it.
And so it's much easier. It's very performant. Verification happens 20 milliseconds for an arbitrary number of files at a given time. The proofs are compact. It works great. And it's doable, right? You could build it.
Super exciting. Are you raising money for this? What's the commercial situation right now?
Yeah, listen, this is a community project first and foremost. But yeah, we're raising money. I made the mistake with
Unspendable Labs is the company
that's
exactly. Building Kontor?
Exactly.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I don't want to have the counterparty problem again where we have zero funds to support the protocol. We're building something big and this requires resources.
You've learned from the counterparty mistakes.
So many things.
Yeah.
Many mistakes. Yeah.
Well, that's super, super exciting. I'm so glad we did this. I will be watching Kontor. Any other final thoughts that you want to share about Kontor and the future of Meta-Protocols on Bitcoin?
I'm very excited about it. Check it out. There's the Block Explorer is live. Read the documentation. It is extensive. More is coming. And we're going to launch a mainnet pretty soon.
Hell yeah. And last final question. So what are the timelines for optimistic verification and signature aggregation? When will this be a completed project in your opinion?
Yeah,
do you need to hire a lot of people and do things, or is this something you can do?
Fortunately, I've been in building blockchains and protocols for a while.
Okay.
I'm working with people that I worked with for a long time.
You are. You have a team.
Oh yeah, we have a team. Yeah. It's not just me doing everything.
Okay.
The cryptography, I did.
You did that part.
I did that part. But yeah, the actual implementation I'm not doing for a lot of the stuff. Yeah, people with a lot of experience, just as much as anyone.
Okay.
When months, not long.
Really?
Oh yeah, this is
this is going to be functioning in less than a year.
Oh yeah,
totally.
No question.
Maybe 6 months.
Yeah, and if you doubt it, then just I just have a track record of delivering fast. I like it. I want to build big fast. And going live. That's my thing.
I would not doubt you. Epic history in the space. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
This was really fun.
Thank you.